Getting back to qualifications, because this is kind of where I want to stay with those who are kind of feel like they're not qualified. You said something earlier, and I want to touch on to it briefly. You said Neville did the work, and you don't need all of that. So if you just do the basics that you know, the rest will follow. Would you agree?
Right. That's exactly what happened. That's what I was told would happen if I would move in and begin to think from and do so consistently, persistently, as you can. I know you're not paying attention all the time. I'm very aware of that. But it's all an attitude. That's what we're told. It's all an attitude. Your whole life is structured by your attitudes. So if you'll actually do a little self-examination and weed out what's no longer serving you, I'll tell you, every day will be brighter for you. Don't you think?
I do. And
about qualifications, come on. No, I don't have any qualifications. What is a qualification of what? In fact, having heard some of those who have the highest qualifications, I'm glad I'm where I'm at, because I really didn't understand what they were telling me, and there was no way to make something of it to understand, because they're talking about things that really shouldn't even concern the individual person. It's what are you thinking feelingly about, because subconscious has been given to build your world based upon as you think you are, you do, you have. And you say, well, what about what all the others do? Well, their world is exactly what they're thinking feelingly about most of the time, as we are. And we're all subjected to it, to learn that in what they call, what does the next world have for us? Well, actually, not much different than what you have now, because it only changes when you change your mind, change your world. And the first does the second. Remember that.
What I like that both you and Neville talk about quite often is personal experience. See, most of those people with all those degrees, most of that's book knowledge, head knowledge, but they have no personal experience with what it is that they're talking about. Would you agree?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yes, yes. And the thing of it is, you see, everyone is qualified to do this because you're called one by one to do so. Now, you can refuse the call, you can ignore the call, and life goes on. But once you accept it, you'll see a whole different, say, landscape, if you wish. Because you can't really imagine what it would be like from man's natural frame of thinking of things. I'm sure they'll be able to follow it. As you think you are. That says it. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. Male, female. And so your world isn't coming to you. Your world is coming through you. See, this message is coming through me, not from me. So therefore, I can't take any credit for this. Neville was my teacher for 40 years. And even so right now, because what he said is it's forever. And that's what you're looking at. Nothing dies. There's nothing transforming in death. You go right on doing what you're doing and feeling what you're feeling, thinking what you're thinking, because there's nothing transforming in death. Well, you get a new body, but the idea is you have to change your mind to change your world, because it's as within, so without. So if you don't change your mind, you're stuck with it for how long? time slot after time slot. So it's really worthy of your attention to really feel what it is that you're thinking, because that's your world pushed out. And if you didn't like it, change it. Don't you think that's a good idea to do so?
You've often said it, and I just kind of want to reemphasize, the message is coming through you, not to you. So whoever you are, this is God's message for you to give to the world.
That's it. That's what it is. Because I can tell you this, it was nothing that I had ever had any thoughts about until that one day. I mean, I had had strange thoughts about everything, but that day I heard something that just went click. And it so resonated with me, I couldn't let it go. And because of that, I was actually following through. And that's all you need to do when you hear something that lifts you up. Follow through. Stick with it. Stay with it. It's lovely and a good report, because otherwise you wouldn't be wanting to follow it so eagerly. So do so. Because it is you talking to you, telling you, this is what we want to do. Do it. Do a thing, and you shall have the power. And it says the power. Not a little power, not some power. The power. That's what you're given to operate from, the power. Because there's only one, so that is the one you're operating from. So it's kind of hard to think about that, isn't it?
It is.
To really get into it, because people aren't used to thinking that way. See, I know how tough it was, because I heard what to do years before I actually did it. And that's one of the reasons I started doing this, because it doesn't take years. Months, maybe, but not years. If you'll focus, if you'll turn to what it is. Look, you're told the people who fail to dream, they start to die. It's all boring. You don't know what to do next, but you really do. If you'd only be quiet enough to really think about it, you do know what to do next. And next, and next, and next. If you'll feel after him, you'll find him, you're told. It's not maybe. You find him if you look for him. And what are you finding? You, in imaginal activity, doing and being your ideal of I am that. All there is to it. That's all anyone is doing, is exactly that, whether they're aware of it or not. The idea is that what we're trying to do is make you more aware of it to get some use out of it. Don't you think?
I do. I know that you're private, but I'm still going to put the question out there to you. You could choose to answer it or not. But you went from a business owner to sharing this message. How did that come about? I mean, there had to be some trepidation. There had to be some fear, some I'm not worthy, whatever the thoughts went on in your own mind. How did that start?
Well, pretty much exactly the way you just explained it. There was a lot of, you're crazy, how can this be? And then as people have told me, how can something so simple have such power? But remember this. The simplest thing in the world to remember is that God is all things to all. If you remember that, you'll think differently. And if you think differently, you experience differently. And when you experience differently, you get excited and experience more differently. That may sound pretty simple, but actually it is that simple. As you think you are. Choose it or lose it. That's all I can say about it, really.
So we go back to the beginning of you telling the creators out there to start.
That's it. All there is to it is starting. And, well, actually, no, what there is, there's a lot of starting and stopping and starting. You know what I'm talking about.
I do. That's why I'm laughing.
Yeah. Yeah, really. You have to have a passion to know first person. That's it. You have to have a passion to know first person, and you're given to know first person. You turn to me, I'll turn to you. If God's going to turn to you, what would be your problems? I mean, really. I mean, doesn't that really say it all?
It does.
Doesn't it?
It
Really?
does. And going back to first person, I think that a lot of times we, again, overthink it. We complicate it. We have to know that Father, God, wants to be in a loving relationship with us. It's not even about Him. It's about, as you often say, turn to me, I turn to you. God has already turned.
God could have His ways if He wanted to have His ways. I mean, there would be no question about it. You see, that's the point. He actually gave you to choose what you would do in this world of experiencing. And you're doing it. Willingly, unwillingly, knowingly, unknowingly, feeling so, feeling not so. It's always you doing. You are the doer doing. You're the thinker thinking. You're the feeler feeling. And what are you thinking and feeling? Because that's your world of experiencing. And if you change it, you'll change your world of experiencing. It's that simple. If you keep it that simple, all the confusion goes away. But it's that letting go that's tough to do, because mind doesn't like changes. It'll fight you all the way. You have to actually grab the reins and hold on, because you have to do the changing. Your world stays the same as long as you stay the same. But when you change you change your world. It's as simple as that. Keep it simple, and you'll probably do it. Don't you think?
I do. And I wanted to add something about change. Linda was speaking about mind doing the change. It's going to be uncomfortable. I want each and every one of you to know, when you step outside of what's familiar, it's like going from Genesis to Revelation. When you look at any story, any personification of any person, when they stepped outside the knowing what they knew, it got uncomfortable.
If you go back, if you actually go back and read the scripture, even on the surface, it's telling you what the man is thinking, and then it tells you what he's doing. And they're always the same, as you think you are. It gives you a look at all the characters in the scriptures. You kind of get an idea of what they're thinking about, and then you see what they're experiencing. And it always comes back to what they were thinking about. And that's the same thing with you. Whatever you're experiencing, you can find out if you can backtrack to what you were thinking ahead of your evidence, and you'll find that now you're experiencing that evidence. And if you don't like it, change your mind, change your world. That's simple. Not easy, but it is simple. It had to be simple or I wouldn't have got it. You understand that, don't you?
I do. And I think as we get it because we've come to the end of ourselves, whatever that looks like for each individual. Because I think that for me, I thought I knew what was the right path. I knew it wasn't working, but I thought I knew it. And it wasn't until listening to Neville's teaching and other teachers, like-minded teachers, that I began to see that I'm responsible. Because, see, I often looked at it from a place of condemnation when I messed up, as it were, and didn't see it as something that could change. I always looked at outside sources. And so Neville brought it home.
Yeah, he certainly did. I tell people, look, read Neville's books. They do all the work for you and lays it out for you very simply. My level of thinking at that time was greatly, greatly changed in just a few moments.